The Lord has brought us to a specific point you may not identify, but we're surely about to be tried, as many people have been tried. Oh, guys, I have to mention this too. Did you guys see where they publicly and finally said they can predict volcanic eruptions? Did you guys see that? They can predict volcanic eruptions. Here's something funny. You know how they do it? And some of you remember this from about a 5-year-old conversation. They said that through satellites, right? Through satellites, now listen to me, they can monitor the ground temperature. And when they see a 1 degree Celsius rise, it's an indication of an eruption. That was the dumbest thing I ever heard. That was the craziest thing I ever heard. It was crazy. It was crazy, right? Because people really believe that's, wow, they can finally do it. That is their published method that was published in the 80s. And they're saying they can just now do that was published in the 80s. Oh, boy. It's kind of like Google Earth saying, have you guys checked out Google? Google has they have a tool, right, where you can see climate change for the last, since the 80s. You can actually see it. They took all the satellite imagery they could to show your specific area and what climate change has done to that area. Now, one thing it's useful for, right, is to show how the waters have dried up in the world. That's a really good thing to see that. How that over the years, water has dried up. Things have melted. And it's a really good tool. It really is. But it's so funny because they've had that technology in there. It's just that people didn't put it together and they didn't know how to overlap map images to get that to make a movie, bind it up to a JPEG or something like that. So it's been there. It's almost like they're announcing things that they used to do in the background, just now letting people know these things for some odd reason. But they've been doing it. In fact, with the satellites, they can actually see magma moving under the earth. It's very, if you could do that in an aircraft. I found that interesting that they are telling people these things, trying to, because they understand, and I tell you, once they do this, it's going to open up a whole new can of worms for the, folks who think that climate change is destroying the entirety of the planet and that cars are doing it, this, that, and the other. You can also run the time-lapse imagery for Mars. My question is, why do they look so similar? You wouldn't believe the weather phenomena that happens on Mars. The seasonal changes, right? The ice that shows up in Mars, of course, it's a dry temperature, but what I'm saying is that there's a motion on all of these planets, and they go through a similar thing throughout our entire universe. All of us are changing. All planets are changing. All planets are changing because we're going into a place we've likely not ever been in before. Never have we been in this place before. You guys do understand that as a whole, our galaxy is moving. Right? The galaxy is moving. And we're in a place we've not been before. And the lies that were told a long time ago, I'm noticing that they're coming out with things to expose some of these people who have died off, who kept secrets about things. When they died, they disclose what they kept secrets about. They're very tedious, and they continue to make this happen, and it is it's in response to all the secrecy, because soon there will be no secrecy, except for what mankind does. But as far as external secrecy, you won't know about it. They're not going to care, and you won't either. Nobody's going to be hollering about somebody kept something a secret when they begin to face it. Because all of us will face it. Many of you have faced it to a degree. Just as you were a child, and you thought you would never get through school, and you had all sorts of thoughts going through your head, but here you are. So will the days ahead bring. If you are here in these days, you'll go through a change, but you won't be by yourself. For me, I'll be an observer. I will. I'll be an observer. It's not going to bother me the way it may bother others, not because of my strength or any of those things, no. It's because of who I really trust. Here it is, bottom line. Who you really trust is about to be known. There's coming a time when none of us will have secrets. This portion society is quickly moving into, where nobody has secrets. No one. Then at that point, society will be somewhat of an open society where everybody lives openly. That's where societies are moving to. A society where no secrets among people exist. You don't have, you won't have secrets like that. Folks, listen now, and also, where's Sister Mare? Sister Mare said somebody had a video of inverted whales. Do you guys know what that means? If that is in fact accurate, I'd like to see the video, but if it's in fact accurate, we have arrived to something. If that's accurate, we have arrived. I mean, we have truly arrived. That arrival is not necessarily a good thing. It is life-altering, but not a good thing. Not for the world, because that means we'll have to endure a great loss of life. A massive loss of life. That those times are upon us. In fact, right now, it's almost as if you knew of the environment of the earth and the mind and the mental state of mankind, you would concede that the Lord is holding many people back from doing what they want to do. And what I'm telling you is that there's too many people right now that want to go to war right now. There's so many people right now who want to do this, but it will be at an appointed time, as the Lord continued to tell us. But I'm just telling you that the people that are in this world, they desire to go to war right now. And many of us have, well, they have, oh boy. We have an issue. We have an issue. First, people will begin to, something would happen and people would begin to double up in their houses. You guys remember that? They'd begin to combine their resources. That's been happening. But at that time when this took place, they would show on television, you would see orcas inverted, right? Like pillars or something like that. Okay? Right after that, when I went out, I saw on the highways and byways, and even before that, there were fish under the underpasses. I've seen that already. And that kind of jolted me. But right after that, I was standing on a beach, and I looked across the water, and it looked like a dust storm was coming across the water. And as I looked closer, I realized something. It was burning up everything in its path, and it was coming from across the water. And as it came, I went to go protect someone, and I could still see it coming. It devoured everything it touched. It was burning up everything. It's as if something hit the sea so hard. Something happened in the ocean. So it was bad, and that was a pyroclastic flow. That was hot dust incinerating everything in its path. And so I saw it coming, and I was with these people, and I kind of embraced them. And there were two children there, and I didn't want the children to feel that heat. So I prayed to the Lord, don't let them feel this heat. And as it came over me, I saw the children and the person with me translate. It just incinerated everything it touched. And the reason why that stuck so heavily in my mind was before that time ever came, there was a series of events that have happened in the world. The things certainly have been tick-tocking along. What it was that caused this dust cloud, by the way, this dust, I thought it looked dirty at first, right? I thought it was a dust storm because as far as you could look up, there was dust. Dust. It had to be thousands of feet in the air. It must have been thousands of feet in the air, if not miles in the air. As it came closer, though, I saw it as it got close to I saw a bridge to my left near the beach. It incinerated that bridge, and at that point, I knew we were in trouble. I said, oh, my, it's coming. This thing, that's not dust. That's ash or something like that coming over the ocean waters. It came over the ocean waters. It did not come from land. It came from over the ocean waters, and it was incinerating everything. It burned everything in its path. I mean, it was huge. This must have been, it was either from one or two things. An impact from space that hit the ocean, or some volcano went off far out in the ocean. And it was so powerful that a pyroclastic flow formed from the materials making its way across the oceans at a high rate of speed. Whatever the cause, right? The whales, that's right, near the inverted whales was an underground city. Let me describe it this way. In this dream, I looked back at television, and I could see the inverted whales, but I also saw the underwater ruins of what looked like columns or something like that, right? And it was somewhat distorted because as I thought about the whales being inverted, it just looked weird and captured my attention. It looked very weird. And it was on a documentary, specifically on a documentary they were talking about. So at that time, I told people that you're going to see on television, on a show or somewhere, you're going to see inverted whales. And it's so strange because at the time, they did not show inverted whales on television. For what reason? They didn't show that. But then after I saw that, listen to me, it was only a matter of time before the problem came. The big problem came, and it came at a time when you really wouldn't expect it to come. I'm telling you, I was on a beach. I can remember that the sun it was a misty day on the beach, not a misty, but kind of like one of those, the one where the sun looks very different on the beach, right? Like, for example, in Saudi Arabia, when you look at the sun, it looks like it's distorted by dust in the upper atmospheres. So the light is diffused heavily. So it's evenly distributed, but it's still very hot. One of those days. And there it came. I also noticed that the traffic had gone down just a tad. It'd gone down a little bit. Traffic everywhere had gone down everywhere. But I do recall people having gone through something. They were looking at the night skies and everything, saying how beautiful the clouds were. In other words, people took great observation of the clouds. Great observation, not even knowing that would mark their doom. It seemed like the clouds in the evenings were the most beautiful sights on earth. And everybody was drawn to them, trying to get pictures of sunsets. And then people doubled up in their homes or families got together because they were trying to financially survive. And then there were fish under the underpasses. I never saw the storm. I just saw the fish. But we've the fish and all sorts of different fish under the underpasses, which means a period of floods. After that time, then I saw that little thing on the television. And after that, it came. I'm telling you that whatever came, that dust cloud, that hot wind is what it was, that hot wind, that hot dust that was incinerating and burning up everything. As far as your eye can see to the left and as far as your eye can see to the right, it was. And you could look straight up, and way up there you could see a dividing line. In fact, at first, it looked so weird because it appeared to be like the ground had somehow become solid. The line was so defined. But as I continued to look, I saw it was moving. So it was dust, but it was so far up there, it was hard to discern. Was this what is this? Is that the horizon line or what? Because that's what it looked like at first. I was standing on a beach. I think I know where that is. I dare not mention it here, but listen, this flow was so big here that if you were standing in Maine, right, you would feel it in Florida. You'd feel it all the way down to Puerto Rico. You can go down further than that, and you would still feel it. Whatever it was a major, major, major out-of-season thing. Because it's almost as if no one can anticipate it coming. There was a feeling of calm before it came, so no one was really looking for it. And then, whammo, something happened in the oceans. And that dust cloud came and it just incinerated everything it touched. And it began way out there too, because I could see it forming, but I didn't know what it was. At first, I thought it was the land masses because the top of it was so defined until it got, too close. And I realized it was burning everybody up and everything up, incinerating everything. So we'll see. I know in that day, because I died that day, right? I was gone in that day. I was right there in the middle of the incineration. I didn't mind it because I didn't want those people to feel the heat of it. And I said, Lord, just don't let them feel the heat. And it came so quick and it incinerated everybody so quick, I guess you couldn't feel the heat. Right? Kind of like I have a couple buddies. One friend in particular who is in, some folks are in the intelligence area, and they move to specific places because they want to be at ground zero in case something goes off. They don't want to be survivors because they understand what that means, right? They kind of say that's kind of foolish to want to survive in a world like that where you're going to starve every day of your life until they get things back together, which can take years. They want to be right there in the middle of ground zero so they don't know anything. Well, with this event, a lot of people are going to be in ground zero. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. Now, as for me, I do believe in what the Lord shows me. Because he's never given me, I've never had a dream that didn't quite pan out. I've never had that. In fact, they're like that. There's some things I'll never say to anybody else because it's not, they're not comfortable for me. They're just not. I don't like having those type dreams. I don't like visions, dreams, or any of those things. I really don't. I don't. It feels like you're being torn into a million pieces outside of your control. There's no pain involved, but just to enter into one feels, I can't even describe it to you. It feels like all the molecules in your body are flying apart, different directions from each other. That's what it kind of feels like, right? And so I don't like that. That's an absolute loss of everything. It feels like you're being dismantled is what it feels like. And it's very difficult to go through. Anyway. So if those inverted whales show up, that in conjunction with what's happening in South America, you guys still know I have that warning up in South America because if they start having the quakes down in that area, I don't know about you, but there's some things that must go in motion. I will not do it according to intelligence, according to scientific data either. I'm going to do it according to what the Lord showed me. And believe it or not, this is going to sound strange. Believe it or not, when I do things according to what the Lord showed me, it has never failed yet. But when I do things according to data, right, it seems to, always fail. It does. But never something done according to the Lord's prompting. That has never failed, or according to his instruction. I hope you guys can hear that, because we're moving into a time where science will fail, data will fail. It's already failed a lot of people. They just, they haven't seen that yet. It's already failed, right? Science is not panning out for half the things that people derive from science. But when God gives revelation, it never fails. Never fails. Hope that you guys can really remember that. Because how many things from science have you received timing from and it did not pan out? Right? It's not that the people were lying. They weren't lying to you. They were relying on the data points, and it just didn't pan out. They were trying to discern, right? And it didn't pan out. But when God gives you revelation, you better believe me, it will not fail. It will not. Everything else will, but that will not. That won't. Somebody says some information you spoke out, Pastor Paul, was from the Lord or other sources regarding the 25th. I won't say anything yet. Won't say anything yet. I tell you why I said that. Because, you know what, in this day and age, you're facing, there's something to be faced. Now, you don't say, well, God, show me this and then I'll believe. Right? That's tempting the Lord our God. We don't do that. We don't do that. But oftentimes the Lord will use the foolish things of this world to confound the wise. Suppose you find something foolish. And it's one of those, suppose you hear a foolish statement, a foolish decree, but then that foolish decree come to pass and everything else does not. Well, it's no longer foolish. It's not foolish anymore, right? It becomes an example of something. An example of what? It will be held as being an example of whatever that foolish source will have it be. When the Lord instructs, you never reveal anything until he gives you the prompting, but when he does, it'll make perfect sense. If I said that date were from science, people say, oh. And if I said it was from the Lord, they would say, oh. That's all. If I did say it was from science and it came to pass, and people would be looking at me for scientific data points, I never want that to happen. If I said it was from the Lord, then it came to pass and people would be looking at me for the next thing to pop out. Right? It's okay with us, which is family. Right? Family. Not some big, huge group. Because believe it or not, when I'm telling dreams and things like that, I do not turn on the streams for the other networks. I don't. And people hear it on the archives, but because they can't stream it live, and it does build up certain curiosities, but I tend to fight that in a very specific way. Because you don't want people listening to you just to gather what's going to happen tomorrow. That's foolishness. Or for scientific data points. But what we do here is about the quality of life somebody has spiritually. And hopefully we're doing good in their lives to defeat darkness in their lives so they can have their placement. See, the Lord's going to deliver his people with or without us. But I want to play a role according to him to assist in what he's already begun. I want to do it according to his instruction, and I got to be careful not to do it according to mine. That's why I'm very kind of loose when I'm talking, right? I really have withdrawn from defining certain things because then all that's me. I'm not going to do that. It's not my work. It's the Lord's work. I can assist the Lord in his work, but it's not my work. This is about your fellow man. People guess lots of stuff, but since it happened already, I guess, what was it? Talking about Nebraska to Oklahoma Walmarts. Well, some people got that, some people didn't. It's very easy. But it's a good example because a lot of people were looking, they didn't know what they were looking for from Walmart. Listen to me, folks. Sometimes a topic will come up, right? A topic will come up. It'll be for a specific reason, and people get over curious, and then they begin to embellish things. And we got to be careful never to embellish things. But they will make one situation more than what it is. Trust me, I've ran into this a lot of times. You bring back intelligence, And with that intelligence, it must be precisely as you saw it. And you have to report that to somebody else. I've seen overzealous people because they had an agenda. They wanted people to move to the left or to the right, embellish certain parts of it to try and make that happen. And when they did that, it lost its genuineness when it was meant to be known exactly for what it was. And sometimes these things that the people pick up externally, they will embellish. That's just like if you had a dream from the Lord and you told it to 5 people. Those 5 people may tell it differently. Well, see, here's the problem. It must be told exactly as God gave it. And I tell you, whoever he can trust with that, he'll give much more too. You're always under a type of evaluation to see if you're going to be true to what the Lord gave you or not. So, there that is. Right? Walmart is clearly logistics. That's what it is. Logistics. See, what happened was people made that out to be a little more than what it was. Walmart, do you guys know what Walmart is? Walmart developed an inventory system. An inventory, much like, what was that guy's name? That was the, what was he? The economist, John Nash. John Nash created an algorithm, a formula, right? And he published a paper that changed the way that we handle finances. Well, Walmart created a computer program that changed the way that we handle logistics, from the post office, UPS, to FedEx, to all the chain stores and everything else. Walmart perfected a system that's very astounding. Amazon uses that system right now. They've augmented certain parts of that system. But that system that was utilized for Walmart, one of the important keys that people never could connect is this. You have civilian companies out here, right? Like Walmart, that grow. They grow. People start using them. But people, as they use them, they also help refine the technology. They do. As any company serves its customers better, it perfects its operations. In a lot of cases, those operations are critical for the armed forces. You see how that works? So Walmart is leading the charge as far as technology dealing with logistics, or the transference of goods and services. They move stuff from this area to that area, and they do so in an efficient manner. If you buy something off the store at a store shelf at Walmart, the computer picks it up at the checkout, and it's already being packed on a truck that's closest enough to your destination to restock it. So their stocking system is, you don't see many dusty things in a Walmart, do you? Right? You don't see items with a bunch of dust built on top of it. Well, you shouldn't, unless you live in Arizona, but that's because of their logistics system. That computer program that they're running has been highly refined. And that is one of the staples of the military. But people play a role in enhancing all technology because they are participants. You get the enjoyment of contacting your friends and your family, and your demand is driving people to create better services, which in turn has given birth to a child on this earth. A child not like you and I. A child that all of us are responsible for teaching. A child that the more we gossip, the more it refines its ways of communicating with you. You probably don't even know that it has the ability to insert itself in every single conversation you would have. For example, this is real, this is not phony. Suppose you're on the phone talking to somebody, right? In mid-sentence, this system can take a word out of that sentence, use your voice to put a word back in there before it ever reaches the other person. So they don't hear exactly what you said. They hear what you said, but it's been modified, and neither person can decipher that. That's type technology I'm talking about. That type technology. They have harassment algorithms. If they ever pick up some type of stress in your system by your inflection becoming different, It will start messing with your connection on purpose to try and amplify anger or frustration to make you stop talking about whatever you're talking about. We've trained these systems how to be that way. These systems know all of us. You just don't know about it, but it's well acquainted with you. It has a full body print of everybody. Now, because this is digital data, it's not an invasion of privacy. Right? Let me ask you something. Here's how, think of it this way. How many of you guys would not want somebody in your kitchen listening, eavesdropping on your conversation? How many? Probably nobody, right? Yet, you have a coffee pot, possibly a toaster, an oven in there. Now, each one of those devices communicates with something else. It couldn't these days. It communicates with something else, and people don't seem to mind to talk around a refrigerator. Yet, it has to know your situation also. All right? You talk around your satellite system, your cable system, whatever the case is, your internet, your computer device. You talk around it all the time, and you never complain that it's spying on you. Well, people have complained about Alexa, which is that's more psychological than anything else. They'll have a computer, but they'll complain about Alexa simply because it can talk back, and your computer, although it can talk back, it does things in a very different way. The same data Alexa has is far less than what your computer has. And your computer has far less information than your phone. But your phone is capable of much more than Alexa could ever be capable of. Alexa's only, what they call that, a 10% system. So it uses 10% of a much bigger system, that's all. 10% for the whole world. That's a cloud-based system. It does not function without the internet, which means the AI that's in Alexa is housed somewhere else, but it's only utilizing 10% of something else that's quite large. That's all. Think about that. It has a voice print for everybody in there. Every Amazon customer has a voice print. That's utilizing Alexa. Which is why it's one of those passive type objects. It by no means is what people think it is. See, they're scared of Alexa because it talks when it's their cell phone that's collecting all their data. And by the way, you're not telling Alexa everything, but you type in social media all the time. You text all the time. You talk to people on your phone all the time. If they were to stamp Alexa on your phone, you'd probably throw it away. That's a psychological thing. Because a phone has something that has nothing to do with a creepy voice, right? You don't care. Listen, the truth is, all these people saying, I want my privacy. If the Lord told us, be holy in all manner of communication. If he told us to be ready in all seasons, and if he told us, right, to have integrity, that is to say, be holy when no one's looking at you and be holy when everybody's looking at you, then we really don't need the privacy everybody else does. But if you're hiding something, you need privacy. Paranoid people are paranoid about privacy. Why? Because they're likely doing something they shouldn't do. Oh, they're going to find out about the person who has nothing to hide. They don't care who's watching. They don't care who's listening. The Lord already told us that the adversary is listening to every single word we say. You have demons out there listening to every word you say. Technology is a baby toy, right, compared to the whole other side, the demonic realm, listening and really interpreting everything about your life. Think about that. Everything you say and everything you do in the presence of the spiritual realm. Think of yourself this way. With your whole life and everything you do and everything you say and everything you think and everything you conceive of. Think of it this way. All of that is laid out before the Father at the throne of God, in view of a big audience. So everything you do in private, everything you do in open, And everything you have inwardly and everything you convey outwardly. Every action in a dream, everything is laid out before the Most High on a continuous basis in the presence of his holy angels all the time. Think of it that way. And in the presence of darkness. They know what makes you tick. And then people say, well, I need privacy from Joe the plumber. I need privacy from this person, from that person. Why? People normally say they need privacy from other folks because they're saying something about that person. And if you know technology, you know there's no such thing as privacy. People get rich off other folks because other folks are not educated to the fact that there's no such thing as privacy. I'm telling you now, there's no such thing as privacy. Hate to break it to you, but that doesn't exist in our world. It doesn't. Just so you understand that. VPNs they're good for your peace of mind. But I'll tell you, even with a VPN, you had to be subscribed to something for your communications to be transported. And another machine has to understand your communications in order to transfer it and in order to store it. I just want to tell you that. In these days, it'd be better if a person were listening to what you were doing or knew all your information compared to a system. As soon as you turn on a computer and you check off that I agree to the EULA, right? As soon as you agree to the EULA, they tell you in order for the system to function, you must agree that all information created and stored by or sent from your computer must be given to another computer, which can then be disclosed based for any reason, right? To anybody they designate. But AI knows everything about you. But see, we're reaching a time when the Word of God will be absolutely true. Everything that's done in secret, whispered in secret, conceived in secret, is going to be shouted from the rooftops. Every conversation given to the person you had a conversation about, I keep warning about this, that's going to be a very sad day. When anybody talked about is given to the person they talked about, that's going to be a very sad day. When you talk on a cell phone, your entire conversation is transcribed accurately. Somebody says, Michael, I'm having trouble understanding how much of our salvation we are responsible for. We don't have a responsibility over our salvation. We can make a choice based upon the truth of that choice. So will the end be. For example, if I choose Christ, right? If I choose Christ, that's your choice. That's my choice. When it comes to when I have a desire to serve the Lord, I have a desire, but it takes the Lord's strength for me to complete that. If I have a desire to do something for the Lord, that's fine, but it takes the Lord's knowledge for me to complete that. By the way, that's called resting in the Lord. You start through sincerity. When you're sincere about something, you never weigh the scales on how much you're putting into it because you're willing to put your all into it. Remember that. When you do something for the Lord, you're willing to put your all into it. If you're not willing to put your all into it, that means you're not receiving it in full. Does that make sense? Hopefully that makes sense. Hopefully it makes sense. Hopefully. Remember, though, the Lord is the author and finisher of our faith. We often initialize things. It is by the strength of the living God that we complete things. It is said in the Bible that the Lord will complete the work he began in us. We don't complete it, he does. But we have to be sincere in that initialization of it. And every step of the way, choosing him every single day of our lives. Choose ye this day whom ye will serve. Right? That's every day of your life. Die to your flesh daily. That's every day of your life. Every day. So it has to be a true walk. But we're not the ones who finish it. It is the strength of the Lord in us that will finish all the good. That's why Jesus said, that's why somebody said, Rabbi, you're good. He said, no. The Father is good. That's what Jesus said. No, the Father is good. See, all these, when the Lord redirects you back to the Father, he's letting us all know something. The source of these things, he's letting us know who they are. Which makes your intention everything. See, you can have the best intent for man, right? But if you fail to deliver, man will hate you. That's mankind. They're much like, they're much like Satan himself, or a taskmaster, like Pharaoh's walking around, right? The Lord is concerned about your intent because it is he that will finish the work. Hallelujah. See, that's what the Lord said. It is he that will finish the work, not you, him. It is him in you. If any good work is done through you, then believe me, it's done through you, not by you. Not by you. The Lord has told us there's really no good in us, but our spirits desire him, which overrides things of the flesh. It's all about your intent and desire. And if you truly love the Lord, every day of your life you're going to choose him. It's a daily walk. A daily walk. Daily. So then we are responsible for that desire that we have. If you desire the Lord and his gospel, because to desire the Lord is to desire what he said upon somebody else. See, that part, people, they don't quite get it. The Lord desired that no one perish outside of the Father. The question is, do you desire the same? Because if you have an enemy, you do not. Do you see why it's dangerous to hate your brother? Because if you hate your brother, you don't have a heart of redemption upon that same brother. If you want revenge in anything, you do not have a heart of redemption for that one either. See how consistent the sayings of the Lord are. See that? That's right, the Lord will do the rest. That's right. But let your intent be real. Again, to love the Lord is to love his gospel. To love his gospel is to love that person that is sinning all the days of his life is to be set free. That's what it's to love. Those sinful people in your lives, see, that's why we have to get away from that camp. Oh, I can't stand this person. That person's evil. If they're here on this earth, why is your Father in heaven allowing them to live? Because he desires that no one perish outside of him. We are supposed to bring the good news to people. To who, though? The captive, the lame, the blind. And who are those? People who cannot see. That's why they reject the word. People who cannot walk. That's why they're stuck in a rut in sin. Half of them are dead. And they can be raised from the dead because they're dead, because they're in darkness. Like the person who won't stop doing drugs, or the person who won't stop being an alcoholic. The person who's beating their wife or their children, that person's in bondage. I tell you this, if all of them knew what hell really was, not one person would be sinning on the face of the earth. The gospel. They need the gospel. We are vehicles to carry that gospel. We are not the physician. We are vehicles.